Good evening, and once again, welcome back to Mo's channel. Today is May the 25th, 2021. I believe this is the day that George Floyd was killed, murdered by a white policeman with 3 other police people standing by, condoning that abhorrent behavior. As a result of that, America experienced something it has not seen in a very long time. And it scared the shit out of the powers that be. It scared the shit out of white people. So today I want to talk about racism. And every so often people come out and they talk about racism this, racism that. And they come out and they say this isn't fair, blah, blah. That's the black people. And the white people get defensive. And now you have racism against Asians. And now you have racism against Mexicans. But we have to be clear on what racism is and what racism is not. On what problems are caused by racism and what problems are internally generated. It is my hope that through this video, I could put forth some remedies that could be taken by the powers that be to alleviate the impact of racism. But first, I want to define what racism is. There's a difference between bigotry and racism. If I sit here and I say, fuck all Jewish people, and I hate Jewish people, and I wish all Jewish people could die, and I wear a swastika, and I say, Hail Hitler, and all that shit, and I say, what Hitler did was great, blah, blah, blah. That is not being racism. That is not being anti-Semitic. To question Jewish people, to question Israel, is not being anti-Semitic. To hate personally, to hate Jewish people is not being anti-Semitic. I'm saying that, and I'm using Jewish people because I'm a black man. And naturally, when black people talk about racism, they say, or they portray it from the perspective of a black person being attacked. Now you might say, well, hold up, Jewish people are white people. Not always. Not always. Go find an older Jewish person. Either they were around in the 40s and the 30s, or they knew people that lived at that time who were Jewish. And ask them how Jewish people in this country were treated prior to the 1930s, 1940s. Go find a Chinese man who knows Chinese people that were in this country in the early part of the 1900s, and ask them how Chinese people were treated by white people at that time. Go find a Japanese person and ask them about when the Japanese were sent to internment camps in the 1930s, 1940s. See, it wasn't until about the 1930s, 1940s, the Polish people, Irish people, Jewish people, and Italian people were integrated and accepted as white people. Because if you go back to colonialism, and when I say colonialism, I'm talking about when the U.S. was a colony of England. King George, 1600s, early part of 1700s, prior to the War of 1776. The Anglo-Saxon white person was white. The Polish, the Eastern Europeans, the Jews, the Slavs, Hungarians, all those white people who are not French or British or Scandinavian were, I wouldn't say not white, but they were inferior whites. The word ghetto used to describe where Jewish people lived. They were trash. In the beginning, and I'm not talking about when God created the earth, and I'm not talking about when dinosaurs roamed the planet, and I'm not talking about when Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble were running around chasing Yogi Bear because he was trying to steal their picnic baskets. I'm talking about 1500s, 1600s in this country. There was no concept of racism. There was no understanding of white, black, Indian, Asian. No notion of white is here and black is here. That did not exist prior to the 1600s. Now you might say, well, then how do you explain this person called Columbus? I don't know why they celebrate him. He was a rapist. He was a failure. He was a piece of shit. He is responsible for killing more than 1 million Native Americans. They're not Indians. Indians are from the subcontinent. They are Native Americans. They are indigenous Americans, 1 million of whom Columbus killed. You could say, was that not racism? Not really. And I'd say that because let's move on to define what racism is. Racism is the institutionalized denigration of a group of people, or more specifically, the classification of people from an institutional level which relegates a status of inferiority based on certain predefined characteristics. When I say institutionalized, I mean it is coded into law and it is accepted by the organs of government in which that environment exists. I could hate white people all day. I could hate Asian people all day. I could hate Jews, Mexicans, Arabs, whatever the fuck. But I am one man. What's the damage I could cause to a white man if I hate them? I could go out there and maybe beat them up, maybe steal their car, maybe burn their house. In a just society, I'd be arrested. Maybe not for racist actions, but for assault, for arson, for burglary, for destruction of property. That is bigotry. If I am the government and I hate white people and I make laws that deprive white people equal access and opportunities for success, that is racism. Because now I have implemented a system that depresses a section of society based on predefined characteristics. So, racism did not exist in this country until about 1670, 1650, somewhere within that time frame. But to understand it fully, you have to ask yourself, where did it come from? Now, I will digress at this point and I will say that there are some excellent videos on YouTube that cover this topic. Do a search for the origin of racism. One video is by a white man. I think he got a master's degree in anthropology from Portland University or something. White man, I think he has a brown shirt in this video. Provides an excellent assessment. Another is by a black woman, dark-skinned black woman. She has braids. Once again, I don't know the names of these people, but do a search for the origins of racism, and these videos will pop up. And then there's another video. I didn't see the narrator, but it has like a black and white sketch of maybe a slave or something like that. So I'm referencing these videos. I'm not saying this is my knowledge. It's out there. If you want a more in-depth understanding, I recommend you go look these videos. Do a search, origin of racism. These videos should pop up. But initially, when these United States were colonized by King George and his buddies, they had to farm the land. Now, as is often the case with rich people, whether they're rich white people or rich black people or rich Asian people or rich Mexican people, they tend to be lazy. So I'm a rich nigga and I have 1,000 acres of land and I want to plant some tobacco or cotton, whatever the fuck I want to plant, chicken wings, which is hard to plant. I don't feel like taking my fat, rich, lazy ass out there to plow the fields and plant the crop and tend to the crop and harvest the crop. I mean, fuck, man. In medieval Europe, I'm forgetting the term, agrarian, where you had serfs and land barons. The land barons owned the land. The serfs lived on the land. And in return for the serfs living a measly life on the land, they farmed the land for the land baron. And he took the big profits. Even today in corporate America, you have the CEO, the chairman, the executive vice president of this. All the executives, they don't do shit. I've been there. They try to offer me a position of director of this, vice president of this. I said, what am I going to do? Spend my entire day sitting in fucking meetings, accomplishing nothing, and taking credit from the little underlings who do all the work? And then when shit goes wrong, I blame them? I said, nah, I ain't no bitch nigga. I believe in working, producing shit. So it's the same thing. CEOs, executives, they don't do shit. Land barons, they didn't do shit. Wealthy landowners, they didn't do shit. So you had this situation initially where you had indentured servants. They were white, they were black, some of them were Native American. Came here, worked the land, The agreement was you work this land 10 years, 15 years. When that time's done, I'm going to give you some land and you're free. No problem. White people did it, black people did it. No problem. Until money came into play. Now, this notion of underpaying your workers has always been a central tenet of capitalism. I'm a capitalist. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I don't believe in that shit. I want to get my ass up every day, go out there, apply myself, reap the reward of my hard work. Socialists, they want handouts. I don't want handouts. But you have capitalism and you have exploitative capitalism. Carnegie, Mellon, DuPont, all the robber barons, tycoons of the early 20th century, they were exploitative capitalists. They took that from the exploitative plantation owners. So the plantation owners got to a point where they said, you know what, man? If I got 100 indentured servants working my land, and after 10 years, I got to set them free, I got to give them some land, and I got to go find another 100, it ain't working for me, man. It ain't working for me. So they started switching up on the indentured servants. Some of them, after your 10 years, they might not give you your land. Or they might make up some shit. Maybe you overslept one day. So because you overslept one day, that 10 years, now it's 11 years. So now I get 11 years of free labor from you because you overslept one day. But things started getting bad and bad and bad and bad. And this white boy named Kevin Bacon said, you know what, fuck this. He organized these black, white, Native American indentured servants in Virginia. And they rose up against the wealthy white landowners and caused hell. Well, you know what happens to rich people when you cause hell for them? They say, never again. So after that, these white people came along and said, you know what? Let's separate them. Those white indentured servants, they look like us. Those black indentured servants, they don't look like us. Those white indentured servants, they're kind of lazy. They can't stay out in the sun all that long. They're not that productive. Those black indentured servants, them motherfuckers work like shit. That's what we do. We're going to say that white people are better than black people. But not only that, we're going to attribute certain characteristics to the black people which makes them inferior, and other characteristics to white people which makes them superior. And by doing that, by showing favor to the poor white people and disfavor to the poor black people, we will ensure that they will never, ever come together to cause havoc. So at that point, around 1670, is when this concept of white superiority and black inferiority came to birth. Over time, they applied more and more constraints against the black people and sought to depress them more and more and more. At the same time, they looked at the Chinese people, Asian people, and said, well, these Asians, they're also inferior. So you had a caste system. In India, you have a caste system where the light-skinned of Persian origin Indians are perceived to be superior to the darker-skinned Indians. But it was purely economical. Now, it's also at this time that the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, really took off. Because now that you're going to liberate these white indentured servants, you're expanding your crops, you're now growing tobacco, you're now growing cotton. The cost of production is eating into your profitability. What's the solution, my nigga? Go to Africa, grab you some fucking slaves. Them niggas work hard. More importantly, grab you some slaves that don't know each other, from different communities that can't talk or communicate with each other. That way they will never rise up because they cannot organize. If I'm saying, Iganiha, Ilanchicho, and you're saying, Mehonit, Matos, Itausha, Anyangan, Anafrau. What the fuck you talking about? Can't get together, can't organize, can't stand up against the oppressor. At the same time, in a sense to buttress this new view, so-called scientific studies were taking place in Europe, in America, studies which later gave birth to the eugenics movement in this country in the 1910s, 1920s, which provided fodder for Hitler and his Aryan superior race. These studies, classification studies, sought to classify naturally occurring living organisms into categories based on similarities and to identify dissimilarities. So you had a hierarchy. That's where you had the species, the human species, the mammals, the fish, the reptiles and all that shit, and how they differentiate down there. More specifically, it started to stress this notion of white superiority, because you got to remember, it was around this time that white people were now starting to look at Africa for conquest. And as part of their justification, you had to demean Africans. Take note of this. If you go back to the 1400s, the 1200s, when white people started encountering Africa, the continent, not Africans, because there were Africans in Europe going back to BC. Some of the kings of Europe were African. Some of the Roman emperors were African. Some of the best Roman generals were African. It's just that the whitewashing of history has eliminated all African influence. So when these Europeans started going into Africa, in the 1400s, 1300s, they encountered a people who were so much more advanced than them. Culturally, in terms of civilization, government systems, economic systems, education, technology. You're talking about Songhai, Timbuktu, the Asante Kingdom. You're talking about the Zulus, the Maasai. You're talking about Abyssinia, Nubia. All over Africa, these motherfuckers were just so much more advanced than the Europeans, who at that time were living in barbaric conditions. So the Europeans saw these Africans and they had respect for them. They saw the Chinese, they saw the Japanese, and they were doing trade with them, and they had respect for these Asians. They went to India and they saw the Indians and they had respect for them. So this concept of animosity between the races was not evident prior to 1600s. As a matter of fact, if you read about the Moors, black men, are the ones who crossed the Iberian Peninsula and came to Spain and Portugal and civilized the white people who were living in savagery. This is not, research it for yourself. Columbus got his navigation system, being able to navigate by the stars, from the Moors in Spain. If you go way back to the time of Socrates, to the time of Plato, they came into Egypt to gain knowledge. You look at people like Galileo, Isaac Newton. They were Egyptologists, and they studied the ancient teachings from the Egyptian mystery system. These Egyptians were black, not Arab. The Arab Egyptians did not show up until about some time after AD, not before that. So, the reason I'm saying this is because up until 1600s, 1700s, white people generally did not have animosity towards black people, towards Asian people. So it was an economic convenience to establish this notion of racism. As a result of that, I mean, you're hearing these Asians now is like they've been asleep for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, these Asians have been asleep. And all of a sudden they're waking up saying, oh man, there's racism against Asians. Where the fuck you been, Mr. Chinaman? Go talk to your great-grandfather. Ask them if they were in this country. Ask them how the Chinese were looked at. Ask them how the Chinese were treated. Ask them how the Japanese were looked at and treated. Like shit. White people ain't never loved you. Never. See, what white people did is they embraced the Asians. They embraced the Mexicans. They embraced the Arabs, such that when black people said, oh, there's racism, the Chinaman would say, what you talking about? I don't see shit. The Arab would say, what you talking about? The Indian would say, what you talking about? But now you start to see what the fuck niggas have been dealing with for so fucking long. But the problem is this. Through media, through publications, books, magazines, through common discourse, the black man has been vilified as garbage, as trash. And that has been done so effectively that, number one, black people have started to believe the bullshit they've been told. What has been said of black women? They're oversexed. They're angry. They mad. They this. Well, fuck, you start telling a little girl that shit. And then when she's a teenager, you tell her that shit. And when she's an adult, you tell her that shit. And you show her movies where black women are just fucked up. What the fuck's she gonna think? Oh, well, I'm just a fucked up bitch. I'm just a fucked up nigga bitch. I got an attitude and I snap my head and blah, blah. And that could be the furthest thing from the truth, but now you've convinced her of that. You tell a young black man in the ghetto, oh, you nothing. You ain't no good. You're gonna grow up to be nothing but a drug dealer. What the fuck do you expect? You tell that little white boy, hey, you're the top race. Batman is white. Superman is white. All the superheroes are white. All the CEOs are white. All the presidents. Oh, shit, Obama. Well, he was a mistake. All the presidents are white. You can be anything you want to be, little white boy. And you, little white girl, you so pretty. You so pretty. Those black women, they ugly as shit. Those Asian women, oh, they just little toys good for fucking. Toss them. Mexican women, fuck them. And fuck off. You're the greatest thing. You God's gift to man. Beautiful white woman. What's she gonna grow up believing? So, through instituting this concept and promoting it through the media, you started to embellish racism within the general social construct of the nation and the world. Because now, if you go to somewhere like India, see now, what has happened is dark skin. You see my skin is dark skin. Dark skin like mine is at the bottom. I could be the most intelligent motherfucker on the planet. But because I'm dark-skinned, I'm dumb as shit. Look at the media. Where do you see black men in prominent positions? Athletes. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. They're all about as dark-skinned as me. They're all about as dark-skinned as me. So, a dark-skinned man, we're just brutes. Physical. We have no mind. We can't think. We can't reason. In India, they have the caste system. At the very bottom are what they call untouchables. Those are the dark-skinned Indians. These motherfuckers are so dark, you could take them, put them in the ghetto, and niggas would be like, oh shit, there's another nigga. I ain't bullshitting. There's some Indians that's darker skinned than me, but they speak Gujarati. And they have an accent. That's how you know they're not black. The lighter skinned Indians, they put at the top. Look at Bollywood. And ask yourself, how many dark-skinned movie stars do you see in Bollywood? Look at the presidents of India. When's the last time you saw a dark-skinned president of India? India's not alone. Go to Brazil. They have the caste system. If you've never been to Brazil, you think that there's no dark-skinned people in Brazil. I've been in Brazil. I've been to Sao Paulo. I've been to Rio. And I've seen many dark-skinned black people in Brazil. There's more dark-skinned black people in Brazil than there is in the US. But at the top are the pure white people, Portuguese. Then the mulattoes. And the very bottom, the dark-skinned niggas. The same happens in Venezuela. The same is pretty much all over the world. And this is because of endless indoctrination that has been put forth on the world as a whole. In Africa, in the Caribbean, you have dark-skinned Africans and Caribbeans who put cream on their skin such that they may be lighter skinned. There's nothing wrong with being a light-skinned black person. There's nothing wrong with being a white-skinned person. There's nothing wrong with being an Asian-skinned person. And there's nothing wrong with being a dark-skinned motherfucker like me. I love my dark skin. When I get an opportunity, I go sit out in the sun so I can be even darker. Because I think, that's just my personal opinion, I think the most beautiful skin tone is what you see on the Sudanese or Senegalese people. Dark black. Pitch black. That's a beautiful skin tone. That's just my opinion. So, it started off for economic reasons, then it migrated to social control and favoritism within the black community. There is that schism between dark and light-skinned. A lot of people don't want to talk about it anymore, but it was a very big thing. I went to Howard. Howard used to have what they call the brown paper bag test. Think of a lunch bag. You used to carry your lunch to school in the paper bag, right? Brown skin or tan skin. Howard University, one of the most prominent historically black colleges and universities in this country. One of the most prominent universities, period, in this country. Used to have a test. If you're darker in that paper bag, you don't get admittance. It's encouraging that, to a large extent, black people in this country seem to have made progress to overcome that stupidity. But every now and then it rears its ugly head. Racism is not a natural tendency. It's used by governments to control and manipulate. But it influences our personal perspectives. When I watch TV and Indian people are portrayed in a certain manner, Asian people are portrayed in a certain manner, Mexican, Latino people are portrayed in a certain manner, and I don't have any additional knowledge, and I'm not a critical thinker, which the majority of Americans are not, then I will accept that programming. So, for example, just look at Jews. I watch something and it says Jews are baby killers and Jews are money grabbing and Jews are greedy and selfish. When I go out there and I see a Jew with their little hats on their head, I'm like, you little shit ass piece of shit motherfucker. Fuck you, Jew. The same could be said for Chinese people or Arab people. When I'm fed this stupidity and I accept it without question, then I'm not a racist, but I become a bigot. I become a bigot. Black people can be bigots, white people can be bigots, Asian people, all of us can be bigots. Bigotry derives from ignorance. Fortunately for me, I have been around all people of the world. As a Marine, I've been all over the world. I've been to the Middle East, I've been to Latin America, I've been to Asia, and I've interacted with all these people. My great-grandfather is an African man. I've been to Africa, interacted with Africans. I was born in this country. I was born poor. I was a gangbanger. I interacted with the criminal element. I played college sports. I got a college education. I interacted with the intelligent, educated element. In corporate America, I've been all over this world. I've been to China. I've been to Australia. I've been to Latin America. I've been to Canada. I've interacted with all these people. In my interactions with people, I seek to understand. Tell me about your culture. Tell me about what's unique about you. What makes you different? What makes you special? Who are you, Mr. Asian man, Miss Asian woman? Who are you, Mr. Latino, Miss Latino? Who are you, Mr. White person, Miss White person? And I listen and I observe. And because of that, I could say that what you see on television, what you see on the news, what you see in movies, does not reflect reality. Not at all. Bigotry is a cover for insecurities. If I buy into the notion that white people are superior to me, then I am insecure relative to white people. Because I am insecure relative to white people, I feel that a white person can do to me whatever the fuck they want to do. If they want to disrespect me, they can disrespect me. And, well, you know what? I'm just a little piece of shit, nigga. What the fuck am I gonna do? Am I gonna cry? Wipe a tear? Oh my fucking God. This white man did this shit to me. What am I gonna do? And I internalize that. If I refuse to buy into that notion, then as a man, I will let nobody disrespect me. So if a white man tries to disrespect me, I will stand up for myself if it means I gotta beat the shit out of him, if it means I gotta put a bullet in his fucking head. But fuck you. You do not disrespect me just because you're white and you think you're superior to me. Now, what's that gonna do? One or two things. The white man will be shocked because most niggas don't stand up. The white man will be shocked because, well, fuck, hold up, man. I thought I was God and you're a little peon. What the fuck is a peon doing standing up to me? And if I beat him up, the white man will go home and say, that nigga fucked me up because I acted a fool. I don't like getting beat up. maybe I should start showing some of these niggas some respect. I'm saying this because when you know the facts, when you know the facts, then you act on those facts. When the facts clearly state that there's nothing innately inferior to you as a black man, as an Asian, as a whatever, then you refuse to let anyone disrespect you. So when a copper goes out there and pop, 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 kills an innocent, that word is key, innocent black man, black people are not going to sit here and march and protest and whine. No, nigga. This is what black people are going to do. You copper disrespected us. So you copper will have to pay a price. And if it means 10, 20 black men with guns go to that copper's house in the middle of the night and drag him out of his fucking house kicking and screaming and take him to some fucking woods and torture that motherfucker and either kill him or let him live, then it's done. And if it happens over and over and over and over and over again, guess what's going to happen, black man? That copper, other coppers are going to say, you know what, man? It ain't worth it to go out here killing niggas. Because that copper that killed that nigga, he's gone. That copper that killed that nigga, he's gone. You know what? Let's leave these niggas alone. KKK, whatever. Alt-right. So what, they got guns, nigga? We got guns too. We got grenade launchers. We got RPGs. You don't know what the fuck these niggas got. You don't know what the fuck these niggas got. And I ain't gonna say what niggas I'm talking about, because I do not want to bring heat on nobody. White people run around like civil war. You do not want civil war with niggas. You have no idea what these niggas got. KKK comes to town with their burning crosses. We're gonna lynch us some niggas. Niggas this, niggas that. If you are true to yourself and these motherfuckers come in with guns, you come in with guns. Let's see who the best shot is. Let's see who kills each other the most. If that happens over and over and over and over again, it's going to send a message to these racist motherfuckers that, you know what? We need to think twice about the shit we do. Because the thing about white boys, they will do shit and they will keep doing that shit as long as they could get away with it. But when you bring the hammer, they change their attitude very fucking quick. The same could be said for Asian people who are being harassed, being oppressed. What the fuck is wrong with you, Asians? You got Yakuza, Japanese mafia. You got the Chinese mafia. What the fuck is wrong with you? If motherfuckers coming at you, stand up for yourself, Asians. Stand up for yourselves, Indians, Arabs, whatever the fuck you are. And let's say the same thing for white people. Let's say all the Mexicans decided we're gonna fucking kill us some gringos. And they was going around in white neighborhoods, smacking down white people, shooting up white people. Stand up for yourself, crackers. What the fuck? Listen. What matters is not the color of your skin. What matters is not whether you're light-skinned or dark-skinned, whether you're white or black or Asian, whatever. That's not what matters, motherfucker. What matters is what's here and what's here. Because I hate to disappoint you, white people. I really do. But for about 2,000 years, you've been praying to a black man. For 2,000 years, you have been praying to a black man. God said, let us make man in our image. The original man on this planet was black. So if God said, let us make man in our image, and the original man was black, that means that God is black. God's son, his only begotten son, Yahshua the Nazarene, was black. At the time he went into hiding in Egypt, Egypt was black. That's why he was able to blend in there. Moses was black. Noah was black. Abraham was black. All the people in the fucking Bible are black, whether you want to accept it or not. White man, you've been worshiping a black man. Allah is black. You have been worshiping a black man, and yet you disrespect him? Ignorance, my friend. Ignorance will kill you. We can move beyond this. It requires honesty and integrity. There's nothing to lose by acknowledging that nigga, that black man, he's equal to me. That Asian, he's equal to me. That Mexican, he's equal to me. That white man, there's nothing to lose. Because this is what happens. I want to build something. I want the best people on my team when I build there something. And I will look for the best people. I will not look for the black people, the white people, the Asian people, Latino people. I will look for the best people. And by bringing together the best people, I'll bring about the greatest success. See, we get diverted from the main purpose. Homosexuality, transsexual shit, all this garbage, all this nonsense, which has nothing to do with building a society, a community, a nation. Let's focus on eliminating our ignorance, on educating ourselves, on understanding our world. And our world is comprised of people who may be different from us, who may be like us. But you learn nothing by going to the familiar. You expand your mind and your understanding by seeking the unknown. When humanity can see each other on equal terms, then and only then will humanity truly advance. Don't feed into the bullshit that's fed to you by the media, by the wealth class. Because the wealth class looks at you as a fucking ant. And I'm not talking about The motherfucker that goes out there and starts a company and becomes a billionaire. The motherfucker that goes out there and becomes a doctor and becomes a multimillionaire. No. I'm talking about old, established money that runs generations way, way, way back. They feel entitled. They feel they're better than you and me, white, black, Asian, whatever. They feel they're better than you and me. They use these schisms to separate us, such that they may maintain control over humanity. When humanity wakes up, when you wake up, when I wake up, when we all wake up, then we will free ourselves from these shackles and these entitled old money motherfuckers. We will kick them the fuck out of here and reclaim our rights to this planet as liberated human beings. This is food for thought. I don't know everything, but if I got your gears turning up there, then I've done my job. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless. Thank you. Good night. And don't drink water because fish fuck in it, but drink wine. Good night.